Hi, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for the 3rd of March, 2025. It is 7 p.m. We have quorum. Let's get started. Hi, Jim.
So just get a bunch of items on your agenda. We're going to start getting into some of the warrant articles. So if you're okay, I'll just start with probably the one that's most pressing, which is the FY26 budget. Last week, I provided the Finance Committee, Select Board, and School Committee with an overview of kind of what's the plan going forward. It's 3 pages long. I knew there was I knew there was an imbalance of about $1.3 million with the school budget, which was passed by the school committee and what I had prepared. Chair O'Neill had received some phone calls over the weekend from members of the school committee, along with Ben Barrett, also a selectman, and they said, let's try to figure this out. Initial thoughts were to use one-time funds, and if you notice, you read my budget message every year, I always remind people we don't use one-time funds. I'm proud of that fact, and so I thought about it for a day or two, and I said, what if we do this? Kind of hit the pause button. We've done this the last 2 years. Let's see how the fall goes. Let's see how local receipts come in. Let's also see how state aid comes in. I know right now I'm about $170,000 lower than what the governor's proposing. We still have the House budget, Senate, the Ways and Means, and then the governor probably going to sign mid-July. So buys us some time. Optimistic that some other things could come in lower, possibly health insurance a little bit. We're in the middle of negotiating with all the bargaining units for that one. And the school committee, the members who were represented, along with the business manager and school superintendent, liked that idea, and so that's where we're at. So with this $650,000, it will increase the Walpole Schools budget to 4.57%, and that's where we would be at. So I do want to say, I know a lot of the town department heads are here. I'm doing this, and the select board, I've offered this up. The town's getting the sacrificed on this one. We're not seeing the 66-34 split. You had the DPW director, police chief, fire chief in here last December telling you what their needs of the department were. I'm pleased to report my budgets on the town side are all balanced. They were balanced come December. I understand the school's in a really tough spot, so I just said instead of using the one-time funds, jeopardizing our AAA bond rating, which we just received this past June, the ratings agencies would look very, very, very poorly on that. We're going out to borrow about $25 million this coming fall. I think it would go against us, and it would be a bad look for the town to go backwards. So what we said is, no matter one way or another, we'll get you to the 650, even if I'm directed to dip into one-time funds, and I'll let you and the elected officials hammer that out if it gets down to that. I don't think it will. So that's kind of where we're at. I'll take any questions you may have.
So we're going to take money from that closes out to free cash and apply this to is that what the plan is?
No, so my proposal is not to do anything. Leave the budget
Yeah.
as is. Let's see where certain things come in the fall. Local receipts. I reminded everyone in this memo, I prepare the local receipts this year in November, December 2024. Jody won't close out those receipts along with Lisa until July, August 2026. So it's about 18, 20 months later that it's a best guesstimate of where we think we're at in November of 2024. I look at 3, 10, and 5-year trends. I also, the DO, Division of Local Services, advised you should budget approximately 80% of your last previously closed out year. They suggested that last year when we did the 5-year budget planning tool. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I know people question, well, you lowball on the local receipts. If you really dig into the local receipts, and I think I'd given you folks some information on that, I try not to lowball the receipts. But if I am overly aggressive with the local receipts, I'll find us in a hole very quickly and put us in a really bad spot. There are some lines that you may say, well, you only budgeted $237,000 or $300,000 in that line. I know when this was brought to my attention, I was able to say, yeah, it's the investment income line. And if you look, the last 2 years, it's been spiked to $2 and $3 million. That's because we borrowed the whole $70 million for the middle school, and we were able to benefit from the interest that we put in that account. We are going to get penalized for interest arbitrage by the IRS. We put that money aside knowing these last few years, the return on this investment, it's only about $600,000 now. We've identified it in free cash, so I have it more or less set aside. Then there's a couple of other lines, like we had a sale of 2 house lots. We also had prison mitigation close out one of those years that they're gone. So there's once you dig into the numbers, it's really, I'm not not being too aggressive on some of these lines and underestimating them. So I'll take any questions.
Josette?
I agree with what you're doing right now. You're over-barreled, you don't have a choice, no more than the school department does. I mean, but the building, all of the permits and stuff that are out have been out for over a year. Everything is coming in slowly, coming online slowly. My real concern, get through 26, 27, and you don't have the magic ball, and I kind of wish it did.
I don't know if I'd be here if I did.
Yeah,
I like it
that's
here.
true.
But I'd be
You'd
pretty
be
rich if I
elsewhere.
did.
But I'm really concerned because we've been here before, smaller numbers, same scenario. And we don't, and from what the governor has been doing the past 2 weeks, doesn't give me a lot of hope that her concern is for the communities that she's representing, meaning south of Boston. Are we going to be back here again next year doing the same thing? And I know you don't have that crystal ball, but that's my concern, is that we're going back to taxpayers to pick up.
Yes, I actually say as much in the last few paragraphs here. So I wrote this so we can refer back to it not only come the fall, but also next year at this time. Because I'm aware of right now, there's an $811,000 liability with Norfolk County, the retirement system. That's what they project Walpole's assessment to be next year. They're more or less in negotiations with a lot of the employer groups, the town administrators, town managers. There's, I think it's 40 plus, maybe 60 plus, 40 plus member groups there. We're all trying to negotiate with them to spread out their plan a little bit more. But as of right now, we have that 811 liability. I have no idea what health insurance is going to be next year. If you really push me on it, do I think it's going to be a 14% like it is this year? No, because in my tenure here, 14% is the highest it's ever been. I don't see it staying that high, but I see it coming in maybe 7 to 10 next year at least. I also, and I mentioned as much that if we have to go this route and use one-time resources in come the fall, that money's one time. It's going to multiply. If I'm able to come up with some local receipts and new growth comes in a little bit higher. Let's say I come up with $300,000. There's still another $350 that we're going to need to come up with, and that's going to be multiplied by 2 going into FY27, because if we use one-time resources, it still exists. School officials said they understood this. The point here was to try to avoid the layoffs as much as possible. This gets them at least, depending on what they decide to do with the budget, $650. It's each position's worth about, each position on average is $65,000. So 10 positions it'll save. And all of this is also contingent upon how their negotiations go with the Walpole Teachers Association too. So I think they're being conservative in their projections, which is great. Maybe it doesn't end up that bad, but that's kind of where we're at. So yes, to answer your questions, Rosette, I am certain we will be back here because the new growth isn't coming on. It's coming on. But it's not as fast. You know, Gilmore's, we had that's been permitted, but they've told us you're not going to start building until probably the fall sometime. They'll slow down in the winter. Dennis and the Board of Assessors can't go out and capture any new growth. It has to be on the books by June 30th. So Dennis comes back in the fall, and the good years he came back and he said, "Oh, I got another 450 or 500,000 for you." Last year it was only, I think it was like 70,000 or 50,000, somewhere in there. It wasn't much he was able to capture. And, you know, we have Summer Street coming on. But that isn't gonna be all in one year. It's gonna be phased in over some years. There's other projects. People haven't packed up and gone away. They're just slower to get to it, and mindful of that.
Bill?
For you, just logistically, so it will be in the fall town meeting, when you'll be allocating the 650, or will you need to get approval at
So
the fall town meeting?
I expect you guys will give, if you're so inclined, you guys make the main motion. This finance committee will be serving that up. Jody and I and Lisa will work together to suggest some funding sources. It'll probably be 3 or 4 different areas, maybe how these negotiations with the unions go great, and I can adjust that price down by 90 or 100,000. So I adjust the insurance, we'll move it over to the schools. So it'll be unique, for sure. But it'll be the fall, probably under Article 2.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Bridget, Mike, Bill, do you guys have any comments or anything you want to make at this time? Oh, sorry.
For you, I guess this is a question for, if you know, otherwise, the school superintendent, what are the forecasts for school enrollment? Are we climbing, staying steady, decreasing?
Enrollment?
We just need to get you a microphone, even,
Yeah. Enrollment in high school's always been across the state, it's been down. Our elementary, our middle school is increasing, our 5th grade, our 6th grade, it's the largest we've ever had. But we'll just have to look at what those projections are, at least with, this, instead of, 20 positions, you're looking at 10, right? And sometimes we know, Jim and I have talked, it's the one time it's kicking the can down the road, but maybe 10 this year and 10 next year. And we look at positions, we're trying, these are human beings, we're trying to save jobs, but we do know, we look at retirements, and we're gonna look at, are there retirements that we don't fill, due to, whatever the case may be. And, that saves jobs and saves on health insurance as well.
But you're saying enrollment is going up in the elementary?
A little bit in
middle
the
school?
elementary school, high school is flat, it's
Okay.
decreased a little bit. Principal Ruggiero at the middle school is like, oh, with the 6th grade. And there's a big 5th grade coming in, but we don't know until they come up to see who stays, who goes, who goes to different schools, but.
Thank you.
did you have one, Bill?
Thank you.
Bill? Other Bill?
It's
Like
I
the whole
guess.
thing, I gotta pull a chair out.
Oh, take my chair.
Kensians have arrived.
Mr. Kenzie, thank you for at least having the heat on today.
I appreciate that.
I cranked it when I got
And
here.
on the enrollment thing as well, we have a brand-new, beautiful middle school. We're doing a tremendous investment to the high school, so we have generally see that when you do things like that, students come back, students remain. So that, I think, the effect of that remains to be seen year over year. In a general way, on behalf of my colleagues and I want to thank, the town administration for working with us. We appreciate the productive dialogue we had with our colleagues on the select board. We understand that this exercise is dialogue. We do this every year, and we will continue to do this every year. And as we look forward, there's a number of opportunities for the picture to get a little better. We're having tremendously productive conversations with the Walpole Teachers Association, and we're moving in a productive fashion through that negotiation process. Mike Frisch was able to quickly move through the negotiations we had with our custodians, which are a smaller unit, but that was a mutually beneficial agreement that did to the good to our bottom line. So I think we're grateful to do this fall town meeting transfer as we have done last year. We understand it's not ideal as well, but we also understand that if we didn't have the Tri-County bill, we wouldn't be here. If we didn't have 18% in OSD 2 years ago, we wouldn't be here. But we know that there's always going to be something with our budgets. In the event that a number of students turn 22 next year, that could benefit us. If people move out, that could benefit us. Additional teachers who may be retiring in the next 2 or 3 years with attrition could benefit. So every year is a mixed bag, just as on the town side, the insurance numbers, the retirement numbers are a mixed bag. But I think you look at it as a great collaborative effort, We also don't think this is going to be the last conversation we'll have collectively as the elected and appointed policy leaders of our town over revenue and allocations as well. So we hope to continue that dialogue through into the fall, see where free cash is, as well as into the winter and spring of FY27.
I'll just add for the record, school, you guys have done a great job at getting additional funding from the state and working that.
Yeah,
And then the money came in and it went right out to Tri-County and to the other schools, so, I mean, there's no one's fault for this. This is not a failure on anyone's part. It's just costs have gone up and revenue has not.
that's why we signed up for this, though, is to work through problems like this together. That's
Perfect.
our
Yeah.
charge.
I would just add to, I mean, the last time we were here was before the legislative breakfast that we held at the middle school. Thank you to those of you that were in attendance. I think it was a really productive discussion. I think our representatives heard our various concerns loud and clear and appreciated our suggestions for various levers that they might be able to pull to, make some change happen for us. On Friday, Dr. Goff attended a larger breakfast involving multiple communities. I was unfortunately unable to attend, but I don't know, Dr. Goff, if that's something you want to speak to?
Yeah, it was really well received. It was 48 districts and collaboratives that were there in terms of our legislators and their aides. So they heard the same thing, very similar to what we said in Walpole, looking at OSD, transportation costs, circuit breaker, really getting their heads wrapped around this increasing fiscal cliff on special education throughout the state. So it was really productive.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't know necessarily what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are pieces of they know about special ed costs rising, right? Like, they know that our costs are going up, but they don't always know, like, to what degree or what is at the root of that problem. So I just think it's really useful to continue those conversations, and I think we all are appreciative of those of you that come and partner with us to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you to everyone. I wasn't there this week, but Doug attended for the Finance Committee and meeting, and let's keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well over the summer. More money comes in. Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to just generally support the idea that we have meetings with the Board of Selectmen and the Select Board and School Committee and Finance Committee. We've done it in the past, but I think maybe we do it a little more, maybe quarterly or something, or 3 times a year, so that we can kind of keep tabs on where we are and what the issues are, rather than just, wait for the fall and try to figure it out.
Through you, I think especially for our budget and the way it works, and I think we've beaten this to death. There's all different component parts, right, that flow in to make this budget, and they're all on different timelines. I think, especially for the moderate term, maybe getting together quarterly would be a good idea. And I think there'd be strong support on the school committee for that as well, to really get into the weeds of revenue and all the cost drivers in all of our departments and how they all cycle through.
Oh, that's a great idea, because the 6634 has been in place for a long time. We need to keep that, because we need more police, we need more fire, we hear all of that, so.
Yeah.
There's only so much dollars in the pie, unless we can find ways to add more.
And the picture can change so rapidly month to month, let alone
Yeah.
quarter to quarter, right? So
Yeah.
it's good to be in constant contact that way.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So what I would suggest is, you folks had a meeting scheduled for March 27th. Regardless, that was on the books already to go over the 7 zoning articles. Planning Board set to hold their public hearing on April 3rd. So what I'm suggesting is we push the zoning articles to the same night as the public hearing. We have the public hearing at 7:30, discuss the zoning articles at 7. We keep the 27th on the books because that is one of the last days before we go out to publication with the book. It takes a couple weeks, and then it has to get in the mail to everyone. So the cutoff's the 31st. So I'd like to hold it. By then, I gave the unions 2 weeks to get back to me. Next week's the second week. We're meeting on Tuesday. So I'll know a lot more where they're going with this, and we can have the final motion for the budget. And if it is, it's likely going to be take no action, or however for the zoning articles, we can just get that on the books, so it gets included in the booklet.
Yeah, what do we vote it?
So if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any concerns from anyone here on that?
Repeat the dates again, please.
March 27th. And then the public hearing for the articles with the planning boards, April 3rd. And then we'll have the public hearing and the zoning articles on April 17th.
Thank you.
So shall we move on?
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
So next few articles up is, some of these are kind of no-brainers. I provided you with a second memo just outlining all of the articles and provided some brief comments on each of those. So this evening, you folks are set to take up Articles 2, which is the FY25 budget, unpaid bills, and snow and ice. Articles 4 and 5, the water and sewer budgets. 4 is the in-year budget adjustment, and 5 is FY26. Article 6 is the Walpole Media Corp budget. I know Tamara's here. And I thought I saw Kristen. Did I see Kristen? No. Then Article 7 is the prudent investor rule, additional liquor licenses, and the street acceptances. So if you're okay with it, I'll just dig into Article 2, which I'm recommending no action on at this time. I don't see any real issues that could change as we get closer to town meeting. We have about $250,000 left in the snow and ice budget, which is great. And I know Rick, myself, Drew, Jimmy, we all keep looking at the 10-day forecast, and we're looking okay right now. So there's been, this is the most amount of salt they've used in a few years. And at one point, we were dangerously low, but it's restocked now. So I'm hoping we're going to close out with at least about 200,000 in there if everything remains the same. And right now, no adjustments in the budget and no prior year bills. So recommend no action on that.
I'd like to defer until the 27th meeting, just in case something does pop up.
I can defer now, or we can vote now and reconsider it later.
Vote now.
I'd say,
Move
I'd say vote now and then reconsider.
We've got the majority of us here.
We're going to be confident in our weather forecast. So
I move for,
Kathleen, second. All in favor for a motion for no action this time, correct?
Yes.
Say aye. Opposed, abstain? How many? 1, 13, 0. Thank you.
The 1300 mark? Or,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
On to Article 4, which is the in-year budget adjustment for sewer and water. Recommend no action on this one at this time. Talked to Steve and Rick and Scott, and we're looking okay at this point. Again, could change, but to get that vote on the books, I recommend no action.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Make a motion for no action on Article 4.
second.
All in favor? Opposed, abstain? 1300.
Okay, next article up is the sewer and water budgets. We did things a little bit differently this year. As you can tell, we're trying to streamline some of these articles and merge them whenever possible. That's what we did with Article 3. That used to be 3 separate articles. So we're doing the same with Article 5, sewer and water budgets. Council helped me draft this article as written. She mentioned it will need 2 motions in it, which isn't a big deal. We've done that in the past before. Sewer and water commissioners met last week, voted 2-1-0 on the water budget and 3-0-0 on the sewer budget. I know you folks have the budgets in your packet here. We also included the proposed rate increases, which they don't generally vote on the rate increases until usually the first meeting in June after the election. So that's more or less where we stand with that.
What's the vote by the commissioners?
2-1-0 on the water, 3-0 on the sewer. Commissioner Fasenello had some questions about the indirect costs, and that's what he really spoke to. But that was Commissioner Harsenjager and Commissioner Abbott were the other voting members.
Okay, great. Questions? on Article 5?
Yeah, Jim, could you explain the, looks like the secretarial moves?
So I did that more or less so I wouldn't see a spike in the water, and I also did it with the assistant superintendent too. In the past, most of the salaries came out of water. It was really disproportionate, and I'm surprised I haven't looked at this before. But I looked at it and I said, let's just split the assistant position and the secretarial positions 50-50, because they're upstairs, they're dealing with whatever comes in. The budgets are almost exact, close to being about 6 million and change each, so that's why we moved some things around.
Other questions?
Actually, on sewer, the MWRA assessment, that's a locked-in number, Jim?
MWRA, they don't vote on it until, Steve, do you know? May. Sorry, Steve Nunnery, water superintendent here. But they,
Early that we were agreeing to the MWRA number, that's why I was asking.
they have these are the preliminary rates, and they're not gonna go up from here.
Okay.
Can I ask a non-budget related question?
No. Yes, go ahead.
What's going on with the Norwood water situation?
So, I think 2 meetings ago, the commissioners, and Steve, feel free to come up here and help me out if I misspeak, voted to move forward finally with the Milot Street connection. They had us explore a lot of different options. We looked at some options going down 95 through Canton. They asked if there was any other drop spots that we could connect through, but this one was the most feasible financially. It was the lowest cost. It is still, I don't have the memo in front of me, but it's going to cost in the millions, but the commissioners got to the point where they felt comfortable. Let's have Weston and Sampson go forward with the design of this. And Steve, did I miss anything?
No, very nice to meet you guys. I'm Steve Nunnery, Water and Sewer Superintendent. So it was about 2 meetings ago, we voted with the Water and Sewer Commission to move forward with design. We're expecting by fall town meeting to have a construction and the final cost to kind of move forward with the whole project this fall.
So I expect it'll probably, if we do that, eventually they're gonna need permission via town meeting to move forward with this. And I just don't know if they're gonna do, like we've done with some of the buildings, we fund the design at one town meeting, that, that takes six to 12 months, come back at another one. We have to work that out. But I'm guessing that's kind of what we follow with the buildings. And if retained earnings are looking okay, we don't have to borrow for it. We'll know a lot more in the fall how we'll finance that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. I've been watching the last 2 meetings in February, and it's really nice to have you at the microphone, because you can understand what you're saying.
Oh, thank you.
And, see Bill Abbott here? Oh, Bill, anything to add, Commissioner?
No, we had the votes correct, and yes, we did select the Milod location for the connection to the MWA, if in fact the MWA approves us joining.
There's still a process to finish this out. We're still like, I'd say a third of the way there.
Yeah.
We're a third of the way, is that what you said?
Well, in the permitting, design, engineering.
They have to vote to accept us and everything, but they've indicated things looking favorably.
A big step for us was moving forward with the design, because in order to permit the project, we need a fully designed project.
When you think of the career of, is it Lisa? From the time she started to now she's one of the associates and partners of the company.
Yeah.
That moved faster than the decision.
Leah, you're thinking of Leah. Yeah, I had to think for a second. Yeah, now she's the boss of Weston and Sampson.
Chief Operating Officer now. She's not giving us up.
She's a very smart lady.
She is.
It's really interesting. I don't know, what's Lisa's last name?
Leah Stanton, yeah.
Stanton?
Stanton.
Six and the sewer.
So recommend favorable action on Article 6.
So,
I'm sorry, Article 5.
That's what,
Yeah.
so wait a minute, now you got me thinking.
I
here.
heard
Did-
you say
Where am I,
6.
where did I miss something? So, good. So, Jim, it's one article, traditionally it was we'd vote water and we vote sewer, all in one article, but I'm assuming I need a favorable action for the amount of $6,506,022 for the water department, and favorable action in the amount of $6,512,785 for the sewer
It's
department.
almost like I wrote that for you, but I didn't, so yes.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Well, I need someone to,
I'll
1 and 2.
There you go. Clean.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 13-0-0. So that's article, I'm gonna get my other notes here now. No action, 13-0-0. We did 4. No action, 13-0-0, and then 5, favorable action, 13-0-0. All right, Jim, sorry.
Okay, so next one up is Walpole Media Corp. I know Tamara's here, and she can explain the budget request. Generally, I'm asked, what's the current balance in that account? It's $842,836. Now, you may recall, as part of one of the funding sources in the high school vote was $400,000 from the cable funds towards the new school facility that we're building, because a portion of it, and I forget how many square feet tomorrow, is going to be used directly by and for Walpole Media Corp. So that was their portion. We broke down the cost per square foot with the architect and everything. I worked with, at the time, Chair, Board President DiTilio in Tamara to come up with that figure. So then that number's already, the 400,000's taken out of the 842. So that's the balance as of today.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Do we have any questions for Walpole Media? Back here, sorry.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I love on Walpole Media how they have the timeline at the bottom, and you can see when the budget's being discussed or when the specific article. That was a fantastic addition. I don't have to sit through 2 hours of video. I can get to what I want, so really appreciate that.
Yeah, we keep trying to improve to make watching meetings especially easier.
So the total budget request is 538,806.90.
Okay.
So that would be the motion, and the amount of that for favorable action.
Any questions? Seeing none, any motions?
So moved.
Second,
He did it all.
what he said.
What he said.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 13-0-0. That was 6, right?
Thank you.
Next article up is Article 7, which is the Prudent Investor Rule. That's something the Trust Fund Commissioners and Treasurer Collector Lisa Sinkus had requested to be included on the warrant. This will basically allow them for some more flexibility when they're investing their funds. And Lisa or John, do you guys want to speak to it at all?
It's just gonna give, you got a chair? I manage the cemetery trust funds and a couple of other small scholarships for about 1.6, and the trust fund commissioners manage about 12 million. Right now, we can only manage those funds using the legal list law, and the state voted in 2023 to allow towns to elect the prudent investor rule for investing trust funds. And so we're here today to ask for your support to change our investment model for that. Does not cover stabilization funds, does not cover general funds. Trust fund commissioners might have something to say.
I'm John Sheehan, with the Trust Fund Commission. There are 3 of us, Kate Hinton and Lorraine Dunton, who are here also. Where we are today is basically a result of the enabling legislation in 1937, which was after the stock market crash in the middle of the Depression. And the enabling legislation said, don't lose the capital. Invest the money, but don't lose the capital. Hence, they created, through the Commissioner of Banks, a legal list which were the guardrails for our investments and the treasurer's investments. And adhering to the list, what we've been able to do is to get returns of about 2.5% to 3%. The inflation rate's been running around 5% in the last couple of years, higher than that, so we're going backwards. The monies that we generate, the dollars we generate, are typically for scholarships. The beneficiaries of those investments tend to be about $1,000, or maybe up to $2,000 with a couple of exceptions. And the school committee makes those determinations. We certify the money that's available for them to disperse. But they're getting $1,000 to $2,000 to students that are going off to college and spending in excess of $50,000 for their tuitions. Another piece of where we're caught is the probably the best known of what we do is the Walpole Emergency Medical Aid Fund. That was created in 1940 by Philip Allen. That account now has a principal of about $1,850,000. Last year, we got a return of $52,957, or 2.9%, which is pretty high for that account. The reason it's higher than the 2.5, which is more typical, is because we got into bonds for the first time, and it's in our history. Bonds were going, well, you've seen it on the national scale. Money market accounts were paying 5.5%, and we could get into some bonds at 6 and 7%. But they're callable. They'll pay that kind of money as long as they have to. And as soon as they can make other arrangements, they give us our money back, and that source of income disappears. And how that works out, or what happens in the big picture, is costs of medical support, medical aid, medical procedures, particularly dental, are getting higher than the rate of inflation. Demand is getting greater, and our population tends to be older. Medicare patients, mostly. Medicare does not cover dental. President Biden hoped to get that passed, get it included before he left office, but he did not. So our expectations are that we're going to exceed the demand for the funds that we have available. We have $52,000 to spend this year. It's projected that we will go beyond that, which is, it's violation really of our fiduciary responsibility. We'll be dipping into principal to cover, and we cannot do that. So we're asking you to work with us in giving us a new basis. It's called the Prudent Investment Rule. And that allows us a little more flexibility to get into the market, to find investments that are not so restrictive. The investment rule, you didn't get into that, did you, Lisa?
What?
What's in the legal investment rule list tends to be utilities, railroads, manufacturing. I have the list. It's really boring.
Yeah.
It's really,
I have the list too, if you want it.
and it's really a problem. So if the committee and the town meeting would be helpful in giving us a little more latitude, I think we can do better.
Sounds reasonable to me, but I'll open it up to questions. Jean?
Through you, just the prudent investment rule expands the opportunities for investment to have you look at products that may yield more income, higher, greater returns.
Yes.
And is there a specific list, or is that up to your ideas and jurisdiction?
It would be our discretion.
Okay.
But there are guidelines. It's
Oh, I'm
not-
sure,
we're-
yeah.
We're not going to be buying the real, the ones I buy.
OPEB is an example. We use the prudent investor rule for OPEB, so it's
Okay.
basically looking at long-term investments, so.
Any other questions? Bill?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So it's for, John, you mentioned a medical, it's for a medical account and then a scholarship account also?
We have 12 accounts. They total about $12 million. And one of the 12 is the Emergency Medical Aid Fund, and that has almost $2 million of the 12. It's really fascinating. One that we have is not, it's a fund, and we're acting as a fiduciary for the trustees of the library. If, go back a little bit, 2017, I believe, they sold what's known as the Bird Book, which is plates of Audubon birds. Beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. But the trustees were not able to maintain it. They were deteriorating. They went to auction, they got $130,000 for the sale of the proceeds. Then became a question of what do you do with it? Paul Cesare was the chairman at the time, and he knew what other libraries do. He knew everybody's library. He knew everybody's bank account. And a lot of libraries had money. Walpole didn't. So he gave us the $130,000 and asked us to grow it. That was all. Just grow it, and when we need it, we'll come back. So we invested it. And in 6 years, I'll tell you what we did with it. We took charge in October 18, 2017, $130,000 principal. The balance today is $352,000. Divided by 6 years, it's a 28.6% annual increase.
That's gotten big and good considering.
The income
Can I give
from
you some
that
money?
was two-
I was thinking the same thing.
And that's based on the legal list. Imagine what you could
Oh,
make
no,
now.
We didn't, yeah, we didn't have to do the legal list for that.
Yeah.
That was kind of off book.
Oh.
They will ask for it when they need it, and we'll
So
give it to them.
this is all legal, obviously, it's been checked through. I have to thank you for coming, because you're the first person from the trust fund that has ever showed up at a FinCom
First three
meeting that
people.
I've been on.
First three, yeah.
We have two more.
They're all behind.
Yeah, I know Kathy, but, nobody has shown up, so it's really nice to have a face and have the particulars that go other than account number. So please come back again.
Well, Lisa invited us to come down, and I said, I don't think they know who we are.
We didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't.
We're appointed by the selectmen. Enabling legislation was in 1937. There've only been 4 chairmen of this committee. Many of you knew Mr. Mannanen, who was, he was something. He died a few years back, and he was the chairman for 40 years. And the associates, if you will, tended to stay more than 25 years. I'll be here 23 years.
You're doing a good
And I
job.
never came to the FinCom.
No.
Now you're stuck. It's an annual thing.
No, it's an annual.
Any other questions?
Yeah, through you, Denny.
Yeah, please.
You did make mention of the fact that you're going to exceed, your request would exceed your assets that you have available for this year, correct? So is it a first come, first serve? Is it highest need? And how does one apply for these funds?
We don't know. This is the first time we know we will exceed the income coming in. We've had situations where we've come close, and we've had situations where the money that is not spent gets returned to principal. So we could make that judgment of saying, we'll balance it over 3 years. And some years will be over, some years will be under, but
Could I also
clearly.
speak? There is a committee, the
Well, we
three
just
of
gotta
us-
get you the
Oh, I'm
microphone.
sorry. There is a committee that, for the medical emergency fund, it's made of 3 people, and you serve a 3-year term. And none of us are on that, although Lorraine and I have both been on it in the past. And we do turn down requests. I mean, and that committee very carefully weighs requests as they come in. And we have turned down some. We have not fully funded some requests. I think if they're really going to run out of money this year, that will be tough. But I trust that they'll make wise decisions, and the people who need the help the most will get it, I think.
Kate and Lorraine were both chairmen of that committee, and they were, for 3 years, handling, every month, they're handling these requests. So that they're very well aware of the type of requests and the resources that are available.
Lorraine, what's your last name?
Dundon,
And-
D-U-N-D-O-N.
And Kathleen, there's an application for that assistance through the emergency aid fund. It's on the town website. I will say it's very difficult to find it on the town website. But a lot of the school nurses know of it. The senior center knows about it. HESCO knows about us.
Okay, so the people who would hear of this emergency.
Yes, yeah, they should. I mean, the school guidance counselors and people like that.
And it's
Yep.
basically costs that insurance doesn't cover. It was like initially for eyeglasses, wheelchairs, things like that when it's initially set up for things that insurance didn't cover.
Yes.
So it's always evolving, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Manager. You don't want to turn anybody who's entitled, turn them down or partially fund a need. Well, the problem with the knees, well, we can take care of one knee. We don't want to get into that. We don't want to say that, we can do the root canal, but we can't do the crown. But they're expensive.
Yeah.
Figure.
My question was more, you probably have to swallow your pride a little bit to ask. And I don't want someone being put into a situation where they're then rejected, so that was where my question was coming
You
from.
don't have to prove any economic, liability.
And that's good to know.
You have to be a resident of Walpole.
Yeah, that is the one requirement.
Mark?
Through you, so any income that does not get spent in the fiscal year automatically reverts to principal for the next year?
Yes.
You can't carry an accumulation account to balance future requests?
No.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? If none,
I move favorable action. Go ahead. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I move
you want to
favorable
second it?
action. Oh, actually, I just had a comment.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I think this is really helpful because,
Yeah.
and the reason I asked the question, although I had the information here, was because I think the general public is not aware of it, and they're not necessarily aware of what this article will propose and enable you to do. So I appreciate the explanation and the fact that you came to tell us about it.
Great.
Nope, go ahead.
I'm done.
I also think for town meeting, you should have, if not you, you should be there to represent, to answer the questions, because you want it positive. And to be honest, it was only recently, I'm aware of this, I've been aware of, it's in Norwood, the Circle of Life.
Yeah, excellent.
A friend of mine, that's her daughter, Michelle Kennedy that was done for. And it was at one of the St. Patrick's Days that when Carrie first came and the money got split and you were at the recreation. And it was Smiling Eyes.
Yeah, that's right, Smileys.
I had no idea. I've lived here forever and I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable about what goes around here. And I had no idea of what that was until then. And I think there are certain elements like this and the Smiling Eyes that really should get a little bit more publicity, especially where we don't have a newspaper, because there are so many needy people, children as well as seniors. So I think it would behoove you, and I know we had somebody from Recreation, he's no longer there, that came into the COA board meeting and was explaining all of this, and he left with several checks. And I think that's where you're missing the boat, because there are a lot of people that would rather remain anonymous, write you out a check quietly, and I don't think anybody can turn down money in this day and age.
We won't turn down money.
Yeah. So we'll see you at the town meeting.
Be happy to attend town meetings.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. So for favorable action on Article 7, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? You were, your hand stayed up as I went. I just wanted to make sure I didn't.
Yeah, sorry. My fault.
Susan, yeah.
Yeah, right? No.
Mark. We're on to
Thank you.
Article 8,
Take care.
alcohol licenses.
So, next item up is Article 8. It's looking to add an additional all alcohol license to our inventory. So all alcohol license is basically the package stores. It's currently we have 6 beer and wine licenses and 6 all alcohol licenses. The select board over the years have been approached by a couple of different, interested residents or people looking to open up a business. There's certainly a demand there. And, most recently someone had reached out to Chair O'Neill, asked about it. He said, I have an opportunity to rent one of the buildings in the Conrad's downtown area. Could I, and all the licenses were spoken for. So the board said, what can we do to add something on there? So it was a 4-to-1 vote to add this on here. I included the addresses and locations of all 15 premises with the alcohol licenses. I'm also sure you're gonna ask me about the beer and wine licenses and what we have currently. So we have 28 all alcohol licenses, which includes 4 club and 1 pending club license, and then 4 beer and wine licenses, but that's completely separate. So people always wanna dig in, what do we have for inventory? So I'll take any questions you may have.
Questions?
Jim, could you explain the census piece of this?
So on this is also linked to like our housing inventory. So every 10 years, the census comes out, it's linked to our census, similar to the 40B inventory and, the number of houses. And so if our population grows, we may be granted 1 or 2 extra licenses, but it's got to grow. I don't know what the threshold is, how many thousand people to receive that, but that's how it's linked in there. So every 10 years.
Thank you.
To Jim, so you said if we don't, in your note here, if we don't do it now, we don't have a chance to do it until 2030. There's nothing preventing us from bringing this up again between now and 2030.
No,
and going
I
through a
meant
special
just
process.
if we don't do anything.
We don't
Maybe
automatically.
not now, but if we don't do anything between now and 2030, by the time they get around to the finalizing the census, it'll probably be late 2031 or 2.
Okay.
So that's.
I just wanted to
yeah.
clarify that. I thought that's what you meant.
So this isn't issuing any specific license, it's just authorizing the town to create 2 more
2 more.
and then selling those licenses.
Yeah, putting them out. See, I'm sure there's gonna be some people interested in it, so.
What does a What has a license gone for in the past?
Well, actually, this legislation, the way we wrote it is if Denny Crowley opens up Denny Crowley's Liquors downtown, you sell it, or, I think if it's not your family members, it comes back to the town. It's not going to be like a $250,000 license to that person. So
Yeah.
I think our licenses, I want to say they're like $1,200 or something like that. They're not crazy.
Well, nothing outrageous.
Yeah.
So we're not solving the school's financials.
No.
There's a thought, though.
Okay.
Just for clarification, though, Jim, this goes before the general court for approval
Yes.
before we can do that.
So it has to go through town meeting, and we petition with our legislators, probably similar to the path we followed with the moving the town election date most recently. So it'll take some time.
That's a good point. Yes, ma'am.
And this is limited to the central business district.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, Kathleen.
I'm a second time around, so if
No,
anybody else
you're
wants
good.
to- through you again. Jim, this just seems like so many licenses to me, and so many liquor stores in a fairly small town. This doesn't include the bars that we have open also.
No, it does not.
So is there is what we get through the census data, is that a recommended number of licenses per town and we're going above that, or is it also out of whack?
I don't,
this point?
I wouldn't call it recommended. I'd call it statutorily allowed under, that's, if you're 15,000 people, you get this many. So it's what's allowed. Anything above and beyond that, we have to go for special legislation. And we have had a history going for the bars and, some of the, thinking of the deli over there, they have a beer and wine license. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, so we've had to petition before,
Is that
but
East Walpole?
just not for these. No, the East Walpole, we did have to offer something up for that one, and then the census came out and it became available anyways.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, just from a revenue perspective, are you basically, you're going to just issue these? Because I would imagine that the current license holders, they, obviously, when there's a transfer, there's value in the transfer. Has there been any pushback, any opposition?
No, the only favorable, the Economic Development Commission recommended favorable action on this. The select board kicked it to them, wanted them to weigh in, and they voted favorable to move it forward. I know what you're saying, Bill, like,
Yeah.
some of the other businesses in town may say, well, I had to wait my turn, or I had to go for special legislation, but this is more or less just an initiative the select board decided to take on. They see improve economic development impacts a little bit, and, limit it more towards the central business district downtown here.
Does the town have an opportunity to, to basically realize some revenue if it happens in issuing a license? Given that the,
Like $1,200?
It's not going to make or break the budget, but yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
just-
we
I'm
haven't
just-
done
I
an economic impact analysis, but certainly there will be positive, I think, positive impact on this by issuing this.
Only to the $1,200 that was.
Yeah, but also I'm just thinking of, maybe you go in, I'm thinking of near Gilmore's, somewhere around there. Maybe you go into Gilmore's, you get something, go next to CVS or 7-Eleven or one of those other stores down there, go get maybe Watson's or whatever else. So I think there'll be other impacts,
Susan?
Through you, I feel like this is a no-brainer. I mean, I think we want to support business. I think the idea of being so restrictive with alcohol licenses goes back to like the Puritans. I don't get it. I think if people want to open a business and people want to buy alcoholic beverages, so be it. I think to make it a cutthroat kind of a situation. I remember that poor guy down in East Walpole. It just went on and on. It cost him a fortune in legal fees, having an attorney standing by a town meeting. I think it was just ridiculous. And, the sky didn't fall. He's got his beer and, malt liquor. So I I strongly endorse this. I think we ought to approve it. It's just my feeling.
Just
Yeah.
another question, and this may be for the zoning board. So we currently have some vacant space in the apartments at Liberty Square. They're seeking restaurants. We also have what looks like space at the corner that used to be Santander. Could those two locations be perhaps
Allowed?
package stores? Yeah,
Yeah,
would they
so-
be allowed?
There's actually two of them I'm thinking of. The Liberty Village, but also at 95 West Street. That space is all vacant. And you also have the building that Donnell's building right there. The challenge with that building is parking, more or less, because it's limited parking. That's a challenge with a lot of these downtown, because our zoning allows for, X amount of parking spaces. It's less than what's allowed outside of town, because the thought process at the time was, well, you have the municipal lots here, you can use that. But, yeah, the thought is they can come in, they can apply for it, and they could certainly go in there if they'd like.
Might be helpful for
Yeah.
the residents of those apartments and condos.
Yeah, for sure.
Seeing no other questions, do we have a motion?
I move favorable action on Article 8.
No, second?
Mark, Susan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. 0-0. All right, so we're on to Article 9, streets.
So last article up for tonight is Public Ways acceptance of 4 roads here, Boyden Lane, Echo Way, Bubbling Brook, and Portland Way. Town engineer Carl Baldorf's here. He's been working with the planning board to ensure that they're comfortable, that they have everything in place. The planning board chairs indicated they're acceptable to him and the board, and that's why we're going forward with these 4 here. They've been outstanding they're ready to get accepted at this point. And, there's people living there, and it's about time. So, Carl, anything to add?
Are we obligated to accept them when they're ready? Is that, I'm trying to remember back to my past meetings when I think I've asked the same question, never remember.
Carl Bald, Town Engineer with the Department of Public Works. No, we're not obligated to. You do need to go through the process, but if it doesn't happen, and these are long in the tooth, I've got, I keep these files by year and whatnot. A lot of these things have been ready to go since '22, except for certain items that have been holding them up, mostly administrative things. But you don't want to get into a situation where these are forgotten about, they're not accepted, then we'll go along. If they're not accepted roadways, we're not going to get Chapter 90 for them. We're not going to be able to spend public money on the roads when the time comes to, work on catch basins and do other things that need to be done to maintain the roads. And it also creates confusion about maintenance because there's no provision in place like a homeowners association or something like that to do the work. Some of them have homeowners anyway. I don't want to get all wrapped up in details here, but we're not obligated to, but it was certainly the whole planning board process is structured to offer these roads up. They're designed to be, to municipal standards, to be accepted and whatnot. So you don't want to let that slide too far.
Great.
The one that stands out to me is Bubbling Brook Road. Hasn't that been a street for like 25 years? What are we accepting there?
The very end of Bubbling Brook, they extended it, 260 feet or whatever it says on the article. And so there was almost all these were approved in 2017, 18, somewhere in there. Constructed, I've been back here since 20, constructed and finished between there and 21 or so. So anyway, that's they basically extended the cul-de-sac and I think they got 3 lots out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
No
Thank you.
problem. Carl, obviously, they are getting occupancy in their home, even though the street is not approved. But does it affect their homeowners? It's not under your purview, but would it affect their homeowners also if the roads are not approved?
So through the chair, I would probably use different terminology between not approved. I mean, they were all constructed according to the planning board standards. They're just not
Okay.
quote-unquote under public custody. I have never heard, and I've been doing this for a while, I've never heard of anybody getting dinged up on their homeowners because the road wasn't accepted.
I was just curious.
I hope their
whether
bills
they
aren't going
could.
up on their homeowners as fast as mine are. I just got it in the mail today, and it's really done a nice dance upward. Also, no concern of this board's other than town provides a salary that pays for it. But anyway, no, I haven't heard of that. So,
I didn't know if
but
it was a concern or not.
we're wrestling with a few issues and all these. I really like to keep them going. There are a few others out there. There's one other that's basically in this, I'm talking about roads that needs to be moved along. And like I say, they get held up for one reason or another. And some of these subdivisions, and I won't mince words, the other one is Roscom and Emerald and Kilronan and whatnot. They've essentially constructed at the same time, and I'd like to get that on the books too, because there's a lot more roadway. But that was a complicated approval and some things that still need to be worked out. But, we'd like to move forward with these.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion for favorable action?
I'll move favorable action.
Second? Doug? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 13-0-0. So that gets us through tonight's agenda list. Leaves us zoning. So, Jim, the zoning we're gonna do before,
So what I had proposed is we meet on March 27th to finalize the budget and anything else that may come up. The FinCom, the planning board public hearing is on April 3rd, Thursday night. And we could either have another meeting just to go over the zoning, or what I was proposing is do it the same night of the public hearing. So,
so let me ask this question. From having read through the zoning, or anyone that has read through the zoning, Doug specifically, who I know has. Do we anticipate this being a long conversation on zoning and having anyone from the planning board, or, if we do it the night of the public hearing, that leaves us, if we're doing it from 7, in theory, we can start the public hearing at 7:30 and then come back to this afterwards. But if we want to get anyone from the zoning board on, do we want to try to have another meeting prior to the public hearing? Anyone have any thoughts, opinions?
I know the ADU one is very administrative.
Yeah.
But I feel like that'll create some conversation, questions. I guess I'm a little bit, my thought when Jim mentioned it was, I wasn't sure that we had enough time at the public meeting to address all of them.
Yeah, I have a similar thought and concern.
What are we covering on the 27th?
So the 27th, you're just covering the budget, and I'm assuming you'll probably take no action on Articles 10 through 16, just to get it into the book. But the reason if you guys want to discuss it before the planning board, you are more than welcome to. But generally, it's always, well, we want to hear the public hearing, so public hearing's not until April 3rd. So if you want, we could do a meeting on the 10th of April, Thursday night, and just have it, and then at least you have another week in case you're not comfortable with something.
I think I would like to do that, but I'm going to open it up since it's everyone's time.
With me. I'm fine
Good
with
if
that.
we added the meeting on the 10th?
Yeah.
Everyone good?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding, Jim, is that with the accessory dwelling units are mandated, right? So Jim Crowley's been working on that. We don't have a choice. Is that the brunt of the
Yeah, I
zoning
think
bylaw changes?
my takeaway from it is the governor made the changes. They had until February 1st to take effect. If you don't take effect, it opens, you could go build one on your lot right now with no regulations whatsoever. What this looks to do, what Patrick and Jim had worked on, is just add some like rules to it. You know, you can't just build up, and again, I'm not Mr. Zoning, so it's not the Wild West out there. There's some rules that's what they're proposing.
And we had a pretty robust conversation on this a year ago.
We did.
Yeah.
So.
I think we've had it
got sent
2
back.
years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Right.
Is there any harm in adding this to the agenda on the 27th? I know, and before the warrant is finalized and published, I know it's before the planning board hearing, but at least we can talk about it on the 27th?
It's up to you. I mean, if you,
So, I guess the question comes, we typically wait till after the zoning board, but there's nothing that says we have to. In fact, there were times, and sometimes getting people from the zoning board to come in and
Planning
answer
board.
questions was challenging. They've been good lately, so I want
Yes.
to make sure I point that out for the record.
Yeah, I'm just saying, before whatever the warrant is our motion.
Yeah.
So to have the ability to look at that before it's published on you said the end of March?
yeah, it's going out, I think we're gonna go out to publish, April 1st, it's Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, even if we don't vote, but we have the
Yeah,
discussion.
I just remember the AV, we had a lot of
Yeah, that's a-
small changes, words, or it should apply to this, or ideas for things like that.
I like what Audrey's saying through you, and if nothing else, we're sort of prepped for the public hearing on the 3rd. So there may be issues, and then, without voting.
Yeah.
Discussing it, and then the public hearing, we can either attend or listen to it, and it'll flesh it out a little bit more. That way, we might be able to avoid having an extra meeting, or, we could on the 10th, but it would certainly streamline any consideration we decided to
That's
do
probably
before
not,
public
probably
hearing.
the best idea. You good?
Yeah, I like it better than debating it or discussing it before the public hearing.
Yeah.
And a question, could we ask Patrick Deschen to attend on the 27th? He usually gives a very clear explanation, and he's helped us to understand this the past 2 times.
Right.
Jim? Can we ask him to come?
Sure, we can certainly.
Yeah. So that's probably the best idea, because the meeting on the 27th would be just to vote on the town budget, which we've been discussing for months now, so I don't anticipate that being a long conversation on that day, so. Do it then?
Sure.
Right, without voting
In-
on it. We would wait to vote till after the planning board.
Well, yeah, we can, we'll vote, for recommendation at town meeting, and we can do it at the, and then we can reconsider and do it whenever we want to do it.
Okay, right.
Everyone's good with that? Yep. All right, so the 27th is our next meeting. The minutes, I went to put them up and realized they're in a PDF form, so no one can edit them when I put them up. So I just need to get a Word version from Stephanie, and I will post them for everyone, and so we can add that to the 27th as well. I put them into Microsoft online, so everyone can read them and redline them. And when I went to do it, I realized they were PDF, so I couldn't.
I can also share the converted PDF to Word.
These ones, they scan them and then they PDF them?
Okay.
So they don't, because I tried that.
Yeah, okay.
Don't ask me for help. Yeah,
Yeah, I tried to move them all into a JSON package into no, just kidding. Send them through an API.
So, 27th,
27th, we're going to discuss, Patrick
vote
could
that night,
be,
you think, or?
I assume we'll still vote recommendation at town meeting, but we could discuss it after we talk.
Okay, should I invite the planning board chair to attend too?
I would invite them,
Yeah.
see what we get.
Yeah,
They've been good lately, so.
yeah.
Okay.
If they would like to, we would love to have them.
Right.
Always welcome.
Sure.
Anything else for tonight, Jim?
Actually, one quick thing, topic of smiling eyes came up in the emergency medical fund, so we have this form we put together a couple of years ago, we have in our office, I'll leave some here, just more of a constituent services thing, anybody in need. We work with all departments in town, schools, nonprofit organizations, clergy, it's just anytime anybody needs anything, it's organized by type of need. So this is on our website, we've got hard copies in our office. So take one with you on the way up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being so quick on that, too.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts from anyone? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Need a second?
Second.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I got really excited. Second there.
And I'm in favor.
All in favor?
Anyone opposed? Good, let's go home. Thank you, everyone.